You can go ahead and turn in your Bible, if you would, to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. If you don't have a Bible with you or an electronic one, you can turn in the gray one in front of you to page 1223. 1223. Tonight, if you're going bowling, and you don't have to be signed up to go, if you would, right now we've got 80 to 90 people signed up, and so what that means is this is going to be tough for your introverts. What that means is we probably need more than 2 people on a lane, and so if you could, try to hang out with somebody. And so if it's only 2 of you, maybe like, hey, why don't you guys come join us? By all means, if you've got like 6 of you or something, you can use however you want to the lane if you want to, but just saying, hang out with one another. That's all I'm trying to say. As best that you can. And of course, there's pizza available and soda, so you may want to go ahead and eat there. But 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, it's $3 per person per game. If you have children, they have those bumpers. You've used them too, apparently. And so, yeah, they have those bumpers for kids or anybody that can't bowl. And so if you want to use those, make sure you find a lane that's got bumpers if you want to bring grandkids or kids or something with you. But show up. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun night, right? If anything, you can cheer us on. Even if you don't bowl, you'd be like, go, bowlers, go, or something like that. And you can just cheer everybody on. Get you out of the house, that kind of stuff. Also, a couple things. If you weren't here last week, we went over membership renewal. I'm not going to go over it again, but you can just read that. They'll need to get turned in. And then make sure you take a look at life groups. They tend to get filled very quick, and so we always feel saddened when someone says, I want to be in. After 10, it's full, and so make sure you look at those and get that checked off right away. We've been talking last week, especially about a couple questions, and it goes like this: Who has the best life? Who has the best life? Who really lives life to the fullest? Is the person that has the best life the person that lives kind of according to their wants and their desires, their emotions, their feelings at the moment, and they respond to what they want? Is that the person that has the best life? Or is the person who has the best life the one that says, you know what, as God leads me, as God guides me, as God strengthens me, as God encourages me, as the Bible speaks to me, I'm going to live that way even if it's counter emotion, even if it goes against what I feel. Who has the better life? And the same type of question we asked last week is, who brings the most joy to life? Is the person that has the most joy the one that, you know what, if I want it, I buy it, it's mine, or if I feel it, I do, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody? I mean, who really has the most joy in life? Is it the person that lives for themselves and kind of filling every need that they want? Or is the person who says, listen, God, you're the Lord of my life, you're the ruler of my life, and however you lead me, however you guide me, you know what, I'm going to follow you. Does that person have more joy in life than the one that lives for themselves? Amen. The third question is very similar, is who has most satisfaction? The one, again, that kind of does my own thing the way that I think it should be done, or the one that trusts God? And I think most of us would say on all of these, it's really about the person who has the most satisfaction, the person who has the most joy, the person who has the most meaning is the one who says, God, however you lead me, however you guide me, I'm going to follow you. Wouldn't most of us say that, at least with our mouth? Yes. Right? And so the challenge I want to give to you today, and really in the last week and the weeks to come, is this, that what we really believe isn't so much what we say, it's what we do. We can say one thing, we can say we believe this or that, but how we live our lives, what we do in the private moments of our life, how we deal with it when emotional times come in, is really a reflection of what we truly believe. Everything else is self-deception. That's tough. Amen? So today we'll look in the mirror, if you will, and we're going to look at ourselves and say, whoa, you know what? This is what I said I believe. But with the way I live my life, I think I might really believe something different. Dallas Willard says this. He says, in our culture, in our world, what is truly profound is thought to be stupid and trivial, or worse, boring. Well, what is actually stupid and trivial is thought to be profound. We have flipped, if you will. We live in an upside-down kingdom. If you are following the ways of God and trying to listen and obey Him, you will essentially look like upside down compared to the rest of your peers in the world that you live in. And I think we should just kind of own that. It's just the world that we live in, upside down. And so Matthew chapter 5 through 7 is really this moment where Jesus, we call it the Sermon on the Mount. He's on a mountain, thus the name, giving a sermon, that's the name, overlooking the Sea of Galilee, and 3 chapters that we like to divide up are really one big idea. And the big idea throughout all 3 chapters is really this, that the kingdom of God really offers the best life. That God's kingdom, God's way, is really what's best, even if you don't feel it at the moment. Not just in the light of eternity, but here today, in your life, living out your life, your fullest moments, your most joyful moments, come when you honor God with your life today, not just in heaven. But we'll walk again, like I said, through some of these later. And so he goes in Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 to 48. Several times he says, you have heard or it has been said. And what Jesus is doing is he's taken popular culture, popular beliefs, and he's essentially kind of saying, hey, I didn't come to remove the Old Testament law. I didn't come to abolish it, but the reality is that I've come to fulfill it. And so I'm here to tell you what it really means. And here's what's crazy. And so your life will live out the law because you love me. And so it isn't trying to get salvation based upon living out the law. Jesus would suggest that the law is much deeper than that, but that automatic response of loving Jesus as you'll fulfill the true law in your life. Last week, we said this, you have heard that it was said to people long ago, you shall not murder. And so we talked about that, of how, that's what it said, but the deeper meaning was, if you're even angry with somebody, you're going to be judged for that. It doesn't always mean you're wrong. It just means, in your anger, don't sin. And definitely don't go to the next mark where you start degrading people and cutting people down and essentially having ill feelings about people. And so Jesus is saying that God values people and so should you. And so be very careful how you treat people. The next verse is coming down to really saying similar things in just different ways. And so here's the next misconception, if you will, is found in chapter 5, verse 27. And Jesus deals with this. You have heard it was said, do not commit adultery. Do not commit adultery. So in your notes, if you pull this out, you would write down command or misconception number 2. And here's what it was. The idea of, or the command, or the misunderstanding was this: as long as you don't have sexual relations with someone who is not married to you, you're fine. So the law said, listen, if I'm married to somebody and I have a sexual relationship with somebody that's married, I'm committing adultery. But everything else is open. And so, for example, you could look, you can imagine, you could wonder what if, you could flirt, you could compare. I mean, listen, guys could divorce their wife for about any reason, as long as you simply don't touch someone that's their other person's wife or husband. And so there were some ways around the law. If you were a guy, it was definitely a guy-led culture. If you see a girl and she's attractive, You just marry her. Yeah. Like polygamy, many wives. Crazy. Why would you want more than one wife? Nothing against the ladies. I'm just saying, guys, right? I mean, one's enough. I don't care how pretty she is. I got my one wife. We're good, thank you. And so what they would do, Solomon, for example, many wives, wow, she's attractive. Letter of the law, I can't have sexual relationships with her. Honey, be my wife. Join my Harlem of ladies. It's like a death wish. Anyway, so you could certainly have done that, Old Testament, letter of the law. If your home life is a mess, and maybe you remember, you lost that love and feeling, right? Remember the song, we sing it, the culturally song, lost that love. God, I could preach a whole message on that song right there. I lost that love and feeling. Anyway, but I won't. If your home life is a mess, you've lost the romance, the love and feeling, you could go to one of the prostitutes. Now, check this out. The letter of the law says as long as you're not cheating with somebody that's married, you're technically okay. So if a prostitute isn't married, you're the guy, the letter of the law, she's not married, I'm okay. Crazy, right? Right. Yes. You're like, what? We move on. If you're a girl, or if the girl you're attracted to is married, I don't know, let's say your name is Bathsheba, and she's married, you could be like King David and just have her husband killed. Letter of the law, she was married, I had a relationship with her, but now her husband's dead, so we'll get married to her, right? Isn't that what David tried to do? And the crazy part is this, and so if you actually did get caught in the act of adultery, the penalty was death penalty. And so if you're a guy, it worked out okay. If you're a girl, your life was a mess. And consider this, a husband could divorce his wife for really any reason at all. She made a bad meal. She gained some weight. He was simply bored. The only thing the law described, as we're going to see in the next verse, is that he gave her a certificate of divorce. That's really all he had to do. Any reason, hey, we can get divorced, let me give you a certificate of divorce. Why is that so important? Because in that culture, the man at that point, he kept everything. He got to keep everything. The lady, she had to go maybe with her parents if she was blessed enough to still have them around. But really, she was in a kind of in a bad place, essentially homeless to a degree, and he was fine. And so, if she had to have a certificate of divorce to prove that if somebody else was interested in her, hey, even Mary, no, I have a certificate of divorce saying that I was a good wife, I didn't cheat on my husband. He was just a jerk, right? In the next verse, you're going to see Jesus say, no, you're missing it altogether. In the next verse, Jesus says this, that divorce is permitted only in cases of unfaithfulness. And so, no, you can't just divorce whenever you feel like it, when you lost that love and feeling. You can't just do that. Like unfaithfulness. And unfaithfulness could be sleeping around with somebody, or it could be like if you're a lady, if he's abusing you or hurting you. Those are all good reasons to get a divorce. And so Jesus says, hey, these are some reasons. But we're not on that message, we're on the other one. So Jesus clarifies the intent of the law in verse 28, and here's what he says. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Anyone who looks at a woman, adultery, lustfully means to intentionally awaken a forbidden desire. That's something I would write down in my notes. Insert subtle hint. To lust means to intentionally awaken a forbidden desire. And so anyone who intentionally awakens a forbidden desire towards someone who is not his spouse has already committed adultery, and therefore really is due what? The death penalty. Such a crazy statement that in one time the disciples say something like this. They say, man, I don't know what the verse is. I'm going to find it. Matthew 19:10, if this is the case between a man and a wife, it's better not to even marry. I mean, this is messed up for them. But let me just take a break for the guys for a moment. So for the guys, it might mean to you, if you look at a female, it doesn't always mean sex. It could mean a relationship. Anything that is not rightfully yours would be a lustful desire. We use it in a different way. Sometimes we say, like you can lust for someone's stuff. Right? So if someone has got something you really like, you could covet that. It's another word we use for it. Like essentially, that's their stuff. You're wanting it. It's not a desire you should have because it's there. That would be a similar type of command. So for ladies, it might look a little different. Most girls I know aren't like, man, that's my best girl voice. Did you see that guy? He's so hot. I just want me some of that. Like, most girls aren't like that, right? That was a good impression, the whole hip thing. So, yeah. So most ladies aren't like that. Some are. Most ladies lust for, desire for an emotional connection with a guy. Come on. Most ladies are looking for a deeper relationship emotionally. And check this out, ladies. You commit a sin, an adulterous act, when you're seeking from another guy an emotional response, favor, attention that only your husband's supposed to give you. That would be called an emotional affair. And we don't talk about that a whole lot, do we? But it's the same thing. And so if a guy's weakness is what he sees, and Jesus says, no. You need to honor her with your heart. You need to respect her. And then a lady's weakness is really, it's my heart. I want the attention from that guy. I just want that guy to like me a little bit. I just want to get some favor from and that's the God saying, no. You need to honor that guy and treat him like you would treat a brother with respect, not just using him for a little bit of attention. Come on, ladies, help me. I'm a guy. Maybe I'm missing this thing. Am I hitting anything? Yes. So, just like God cares about how we treat people when we get angry, Jesus is saying our best life, our most fulfilled life, is when we honor, care for, and look out for one another. That's your best life. Men, we honor God and people. When we don't use a lady as an object. We don't use her just for some kind of pleasure with our eyes, but that when we treat her with respect, value as a child of God. Not as a person whose purpose is to make you feel good or fulfill some sexual fantasy. Not as someone that we give more attention to, more honor to, more favor to, simply because their outside appearance attracts you a little bit. Timothy adds it this way. Let me just say it the way Paul says in Timothy 5:2. He says this, hey, treat younger ladies as a sister. Treat younger ladies as you would your sister. Now, I don't know about you. I hope you've never lusted for your sister. I mean, maybe you have, but most of us are like, no way. Right? In case your world is a little bit skewed, he even adds in with absolute purity. So like in case your mind, in case your world has been skewed, I get that, whatever. We've all fallen short. He adds in, he defines what that looks like. He says to treat ladies with absolute purity. To the ladies, as I said before, lusting for you usually isn't sexual. Usually, and sometimes it is. Sometimes it is, and God would say the same thing to you, but I would say to the ladies as well, you honor men by not looking for another guy to meet your emotional wants your husband's supposed to meet. Or not some personal satisfaction just to get a guy to give you some attention or make you feel good about yourself. And then I think it would even go further than that. I think it would also mean, ladies, that you honor men when you don't use your sexuality as a tool. That you honor men when you're aware. That you're aware of a guy's sexual struggles, and that you honor them when you live in such a way, that you present your life in such a way that you say, you know what, I'm aware of where his weakness is, and I'm not going to be a prune, but I'm just aware, and I'm going to live my life with an awareness of it. As a matter of fact, again, Paul says to Timothy, he says this, hey, I want ladies to dress modestly, with decency, propriety, which means this, it doesn't mean, ladies, you can't wear makeup and deodorant, right? It doesn't mean that. Please do. Please, in Jesus' name. And so it doesn't mean that you have to look like terrible. It doesn't mean that at all. Dress nice, be nice, look nice, all it means is to have an awareness as a lady of how a guy is tempted, and to say, you know what, I'm just going to live my life in such a way as to not put a stumbling block before him if I can help it. Now some guys, right, they're just, don't matter what you do. You could be puking your guts out and they're like, she's hot. Some guys, I get it. But I think, ladies, we understand what we're talking about, right? Dress in a way that's appropriate, and just recognize it. It's a hard message for me to preach because I'm a guy, but I think I'm hitting it on. And the guys, likewise, being aware of what ladies struggle with as well. So, guys, that means sometimes sometimes you don't engage the long. Here we go. Sometimes, guys, especially in social media, you don't engage in long conversation with someone that's not your spouse. Or someone that's with somebody, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Knowing that ladies tend to be, Monica, help me. Am I missing this? Because they're looking at me like I'm totally lost my mind. So I'll just look at you, right? And so that means that as a husband, I should be very intentional about who I talk to, how long I talk to them, because that could be a weakness, right? So, yes. If you say no, I can just leave and you can finish. So, yes, she said yes. It's about mutual loving one another, caring for one another, right? Are we on the same page? Okay. So where are we? Where are we today? Where are we today? Most of us would agree that it is generally not a good idea to have sexual relations with someone who is married. Most of us would agree with that. But we do live in an absolute sexual culture. We live in a culture that really sexuality, I don't mean sex just like intercourse, I mean sexuality that it's idolized. That whatever makes you feel good at the moment is fine. whether it be flirting, whether it be living with somebody, whether it be sleeping with somebody outside of marriage, understanding that God made marriage between a woman and a man, and then that there's great sexual relationships and everything is good, right? But sometimes we think that I feel like, we'd save some money if we just lived together, and then we would save some money, or if we, what are you guys supposed to do? I'm attracted, and so understanding that this is what the world says. The world says do what feels good at the moment, but God says if you just trust me in your relationships, don't live together, don't be sexually engaged with one another until you're married. If you trust me, your best life is yet ahead, right? And so we live in a sexualized culture where whatever feels good, that's what you do. Flirting or pornography. This is crazy. They say one of the number 1, 2, and 3 top sites on the internet are pornographic. It's like number 3, the 3 top ones. By far, the number one money-making website is pornographic in nature. Billions of dollars. How many know we struggle? Statistically speaking, I think it's something like 7 in 10 of the guys in this room currently struggle in some way with pornography. That's guys. Girls, it's also going up. And so how many know we live in a world that we need to talk and engage with one another? Right? That sex is selling, and it's using preying on the weaknesses of one another to make some money, and that's where conversation needs to happen. Where guys need to say, listen, this is where I struggle. Good night. Everyone's got a phone, a computer, an internet. I struggle. Keep me accountable. Help me love Jesus. Help me to honor people. That's the conversation that should happen in the church. One of the things that breaks my heart so much is I just see it every day, just how girls are being victimized. And not victimized, yes, victimized like you're thinking in sexual trafficking, but also, listen, every time you watch a commercial or see a movie or a music video or something that simply highlights the exterior of a person instead of the interior, someone's being used. Does that make sense? I mean, when's the last time you saw a major movie with a really unattractive lady having sexual relationships with somebody? I mean, does this make sense? Do you see what I'm talking about? That ladies, you're being used, outside appearance is being used to pull in a weakness from other people, right? Are you with me? Think about your commercials. 95% of the commercials about the girl, 5% is about the burger. What are they selling? It's the girl. It's taking advantage of somebody. It's not loving somebody for who they are, but using them for a pleasure with your eyes. Here's just a question, and here's a question. When is the last time, and this isn't condemning, when's the last time you shut off a movie because there was 2 people having a relationship sexually who are not married? Don't raise your hand, but just think about that. When's the last time that you shut off a movie or something you're watching because 2 people who were not married, God's command, 2 people that were not married were having a sexual relationship? I would say most of us, we might close our eyes, maybe. And I'm not shaming anybody, right? Not shaming. Let me go back to the opening question. Here's the question again. What we really believe is reflected by what we do, not what we say. Right? What we really believe about sexuality and God's plan for people is not reflected in what we say, it's more reflective in what we do. And so if we live our lives as if it doesn't matter, what we really believe is that it doesn't matter. No judgment, right? No judgment, right? All guilty, all of us guilty. But I'm just pointing out the facts that this is truth. That we say it matters, but we live as if it doesn't. What do you do with that? The last thing you do is set up a bunch of laws and commands for yourself. I don't believe that's the case at all. What it is you say, God, man, move in my heart. Give me the heart that honors you and help me to respond accordingly.
That's right. Amen.
That's how you respond. So I'm running out of time, and just a couple more thoughts, and I'll be done. And so, to some extent, we live in this contradictory paradox, if you will, this enigma. And in this enigma, this contradictory paradox, we speak against people living before marriage, and yet we watch it all the time. We speak against same-sex relationships, and yet we let other sins slide away. We speak against rape and incest, and yet we lust for people with our own eyes. We may not do the act, but we think about the act. We live contradictory. We participate in it every day through the music we listen to, through the blogs, the books we read, the videos we watch. We live contradictory. Caution, and then my last point. Here's my caution, which I think at this point is so important. What Jesus is not asking you and me to do is Jesus is not asking us to run away from the world. Jesus is not saying, go hide, get away. Can't see, can't hear, can't touch. Whoa, right? So we get that? So Jesus is not saying, run away from the world, go hide somewhere, don't look, don't see, because the problem is, again, the opening verse isn't so much just what you see, but it's our heart. And so Jesus is still calling us to engage culture, to be in culture. Previous verses says be light in culture, be salt in culture. Jesus himself hung out with prostitutes, right? So we're not saying run away, get rid of every TV you have, the music you have, throw everything away. Like, I'm not suggesting that. I think that's counter what Jesus is saying. I'm just saying this, that I get from the text, Jesus is saying love in the midst of it. Honor people in the midst of it. Be a light in the midst of it. Be salt in the midst of it. Be an example in the midst of it. That's how I read it. So what's the solution? I used to read this passage all the time, and I'm like, what does this mean? Here we go. Is this a solution? If your right eye causes you to sin, cut the sucker out and throw it away. Is that the solution? Guys, the next time you look at a girl in a way that isn't right, go ahead, take that pick and pop it out. Is that what he's saying? No. Or the next time your hand causes you to stumble, just cut that off. Just cut it off. Then he'll deal with it. I want to suggest to you this, that what it's really trying to say is trying to respond to the very opening question. Remember, the Pharisees, Sadducees, the leaders of the day thought it's just what like I won't do adultery. So Jesus is saying this, if it's just the letter of the law, if it's just the letter of the law, if your heart really doesn't matter, the best thing you could do is to pluck out both eyes, cut your hands off, then you're in heaven for sure. But I believe the deeper meaning is really this. As foolish as that is, the real issue is our heart. That we have a heart that loves people. And that we honor people. And we care for people. And because we honor and we care and we love people, and we'll never let something else get in the way of that. Jesus, I believe, is saying, work on your heart. Work on your heart. I love Job's response in Job 31:1. It says this. I've made a covenant with my eyes not to look at any woman with lust. I just think that's good. That we still have to speak to our hearts, our minds, our eyes. We still have to engage ourselves and say, listen, it's just not who I am. It's not who I am. The world may say this is good, this is fine, this is the best way, but that's not who I am. I'm a child of God. I'm a child of the King. I've been forgiven. I've been set free. He, she's a child of God. He, she's a child of the King. They've been forgiven. They've been set free in Jesus' name, and I will honor them. While the worship team comes up, there's one issue I wanted to deal with, and it was way early in my notes, but I just think it's such a cultural issue that I have to deal with this, and then we'll be done. Our world loves to divide. It loves to divide, to separate, like this sin, this, or they wouldn't call it sin, they would say this or this or this. Let me just speak to you for a moment. For you that are struggling with the same-sex attraction, that's an issue for you. That's your struggle. The church has been silent way too long on this topic. Your struggle, while different in appearance, is no different in merit. Do you know what I mean? I have to fight the temptation for lust, to say that I will not look at a girl based upon just an outward appearance, but I will value her heart. In the same way, if you struggle with same-sex attraction, your struggle is, you know what? This is what my emotions tell me, but this is not what honors God, and I won't let my mind think on that. And so in that, we fight the same battle. Are you with me? Church, is this accurate? That we fight together. We fight together. And so all too often we have put this homosexual sin and same-sex attraction, however, in this category of the infinite abyss and you can't be touched. I think that our relationship should be working together. Me towards sexual purity, you towards sexual purity. Amen? Amen. Stand with me if you will. Father, I admit, Lord, my own struggles, my own weaknesses. Lord, it's a constant battle. It's a constant fight. And so, Lord, I pray that you forgive me for the times that I have looked at a lady with lust or with anything other than purity or pure motives. Forgive me. Help me to honor you and honor people by what I allow to come to my heart. And Lord, that's where we all are. Lord, we all just pray that you forgive us. Forgive us for the moments we've stayed silent when we've seen somebody that's suffering, or we've seen someone that they're just not presenting themselves in a godly way. We've watched it happen. We've remained silent. Forgive us for that, Lord, in love and in grace and humility. Let us talk to one another and engage one another and encourage each other to live for the Lord, to live a pleasing, godly life. Forgive us for our moments of silence. And Lord, forgive us for the times we've judged. We've judged somebody else's sin harsher than our own. Forgive us for that. Help us. Help us to honor you. All of our heart, all of our mind, all of our soul, and all of our strength. Honor you. And because we honor you, honor one another. In Jesus' name.